People often look at someone who's achieved success and assume it's all glamour and gold, that you just wake up one day and everything falls into place. But what most people don't see is the grind behind the glory. They don't see the quiet war you fight with yourself every morning, the battle between giving up and pushing through. They don't see the sacrifices, the self doubt, the nights you cry alone because you feel like maybe, just maybe, you're not good enough. But the truth is, every winner has stood in that place of uncertainty. The difference is they didn't let it define them, they used it to fuel their fire. I've learned that before the world believes in you, you've got to believe in yourself. And I'm not talking about surface level confidence. I'm talking about that raw, deep belief that doesn't waver when people say you're not enough. That belief that tells you to keep showing up when the doors keep slamming shut. I was just a girl from Bareilly with dreams bigger than anyone around me could understand. And in the beginning, nobody handed me a roadmap. There was no formula for where I wanted to go. But what I had was this inner voice that refused to stay quiet, even when the world got loud, even when I was told no, more times than I can count. I listened to that voice. That belief became my armor. When I first started out, I faced rejection not just in one language or culture, but in many. I had to fight not just for roles, but for space. Space to be seen, space to be heard, space to belong. People tried to box me in, put labels on me. Too Indian for here, too Western for there, too outspoken, too ambitious, too opinionated. I heard all of it, but here's the thing. When you know who you are, those labels stop sticking. I didn't need to change myself to fit in. I needed to own my identity so completely that the world had no choice but to make spa. See for it? That's what building a winner's mindset looks like. It's about standing tall in rooms where no one looks like you or thinks like you and still knowing you deserve to be there. Failure was never a stranger to me. In fact, it showed up like an uninvited guest far too often. There were roles I lost, deals that fell through, critics that doubted every move, and each time I had a choice, break or build, and every time I chose to build, something inside me got stronger. I realized failure isn't the opposite of success, it's a part of it. It's the training ground for greatness. You learn who you are when things fall apart. You learn what you're made of when the applause stops. That's where character is born, and that's where resilience grows. I remember walking into auditions and knowing I wasn't what they were looking for. I could see it in their eyes before I even opened my mouth, but I didn't let that intimidate me. I let it motivate me. I'd go back home and train harder, study longer, improve myself in every possible way, because I knew that eventually someone would see what I saw in myself. And when that opportunity came, I'd be ready. That's the power of outworking your excuses. We all have reasons to quit, reasons to say, it's too hard, it's not fair, I don't have the right connections, I don't fit the mold. But those reasons can either be your prison or your power. The choice is yours. No one is born with a winner's mindset. It's something you cultivate every single day. It's the discipline to show up even when no one's watching. It's the mental toughness to push through when everything in your body says stop. It's the refusal to settle when you know you're meant for more. I've had moments where I felt invisible, moments where I questioned if I was chasing something impossible, but each time I reminded myself of my purpose, that deep driving force that pulled me forward no matter how heavy the journey felt. Purpose is what keeps you anchored when the storms come. What people don't always realize is that success is not just about talent, it's about consistency. It's about doing the hard thing day after day without immediate results. It's about trusting the process even when you're tired of the process. That kind of trust takes maturity. It takes a willingness to stay committed even when there's no guarantee. And that's where most people give up, not because they weren't capable, but because they got tired of waiting. But you have to be patient with your greatness. You have to give it time to unfold. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time through effort, pain, growth, and relentless persistence. And yes, it gets lonely. The path to greatness is not crowded because most people don't want to walk through the discomfort required to grow. Most people don't want to sacrifice what's easy for what's meaningful. But winners are different. They don't chase comfort, they chase growth. They're not addicted to validation, they're committed to evolution. That's a completely different mindset, one that doesn't need constant reassurance because it's grounded in something deeper than applause. It's grounded in purpose, effort, and the hunger to become more. I learned early on that I couldn't do it all alone. No matter how strong you are, you need a circle. Not just any circle, the right one. The people you surround yourself with can either lift you up or weigh you down. I chose to keep people around me who pushed me to be better, people who weren't afraid to challenge me, who held me accountable, who reminded me of my strength when I forgot. and I let go of the people who only showed up for the spotlight but disappeared during the struggle. Because real success isn't just about achieving your dreams, it's about protecting your energy along the way. It's about choosing wisely who gets access to you, who gets your time, your thoughts, your heart. That kind of clarity protects your mindset more than anything. You don't need the whole world to believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself deeply enough that the world starts to pay attention. That belief is your foundation. That belief is your superpower. It's the beginning of everything that follows. The way you think becomes the way you act. The way you act becomes your habits. And your habits shape your destiny. So if you want to be unstoppable, start with the one thing no one can take from you, your mindset. People love talking about talent like it's the magic key to everything. Like if you have talent, success just falls into your lap. But the truth, talent is just the entry ticket. What gets you in the room might be talent, but what keeps you there, what elevates you, what makes you legendary is work ethic, obsession with growth, and relentless consistency. A winner's mindset isn't built on how naturally good you are, it's built on how far you're willing to go to be better. I've seen people with half the talent dominate because they had twice the hunger. It's not about being the best, it's about being better than who you were yesterday. Every single day, that's the competition you need to beat. There's this pressure we all feel to have everything figured out, the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect resume. But life doesn't work that way. Life throws curveballs. Life is messy, unpredictable, and brutal sometimes. So if you wait for the right conditions to act, you'll be waiting forever. Winners don't wait. They move forward anyway. They move with uncertainty, with fear, with doubt in their pocket. Because courage is not the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. I didn't know how everything would work out when I took my first steps into a global industry, but I knew I couldn't stay still. I couldn't let fear become my home. Sometimes you have to take the leap and build your wings on the way down. People always ask me how I stay confident, and I tell them confidence isn't something you find, it's something you build. You earn it by doing hard things, by keeping promises to yourself, by pushing through moments when you want to quit and proving to yourself that you can survive it. Every time I said yes to a challenge that scared me, every time I walked into rooms that intimidated me, I built another brick in my foundation. That's how you earn real confidence, not from compliments, but from conquest. You don't wait for the world to clap for you. You become your own loudest cheerleader. You stand in the mirror, even when you're broken, and you say, I'm not done. And you know what else? Winners are okay with being uncomfortable. Growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. It doesn't happen when everything is easy and safe. It happens when you stretch, when you stumble, when you step into situations that make your heart race. I've done movies in languages I didn't speak, in cultures I didn't grow up in, with people who didn't know me. And every time I was tempted to shrink, I reminded myself why I started. I didn't come this far to play small. I didn't fight through rejection, judgment, and self-doubt to tiptoe. And neither should you. Step boldly, even if your voice shakes. The people around you will always have opinions. They'll tell you to be realistic, to play it safe, to slow down. But remember, they're speaking from their lens, their fear, their limits. Your dream doesn't need to make sense to anyone else. It just needs to matter deeply to you. I've had so many moments where people doubted my choices, asked why I'd leave a thriving career in one place to start from scratch in another. But the answer was simple. I wanted more. I wanted challenge. I wanted evolution. And no one gets to decide the size of your dream but you. If it sets your soul on fire, chase it unapologetically. Even if they don't get it now, they'll understand later when the results speak louder than your words ever could. Discipline, that's the game changer most people overlook. Because let's face it, motivation comes and goes. One day you're pumped, and the next day life hits you with disappointment, exhaustion, or plain boredom. If you're relying on motivation, you're going to burn out fast. But if you've built discipline, if you've trained yourself to show up regardless of mood, energy, or emotion, then you become unstoppable. Discipline is choosing what matters most over what feels good in the moment. It's waking up early when your bed feels warm. It's working on your craft when everyone else is distracted. It's saying no to what's easy and yes to what's necessary. Let's talk about failure again because most people are terrified of it. But I believe that failure is proof that you're trying, that you're daring, that you're not playing it safe. Some of my biggest career turning points came after setbacks that almost broke me, And each time I came back sharper, tougher, more focused. You have to learn to normalize failure, to welcome it, study it, grow from it. If you let one loss define you, you're giving away your power. But if you let that loss refine you, you come back stronger. And there's nothing more dangerous than a person who refuses to stay down. And you need to own your space. A winner doesn't ask for permission to be here. A winner knows their value and walks into a room like they belong there. That doesn't mean arrogance. It means self-respect. It means you carry your story with pride, not shame. For too long, the world told me to be less opinionated, less bold, less everything. And I tried that for a while. I tried to fit into the box. But I realized the world doesn't need another version of someone else. It needs you, fully and fiercely you. The moment I stopped editing myself to fit people's expectations, I started attracting opportunities that aligned with my purpose. No one sees the late nights, the lonely flights, the days when your body is exhausted, but your dream demands more. No one sees the tears behind the smiles, the self-doubt behind the speeches, the constant pressure to prove yourself over and over again. But that's the price of greatness. And if you're willing to pay it, the rewards are extraordinary, not just the awards or recognition, but the pride you feel in becoming someone who refused to settle, someone who kept going when it would have been easier to stop. Mental toughness is your greatest asset. You need to learn how to manage your thoughts, redirect your energy, and stay centered in the chaos, because challenges will come. No matter how successful you get, there will always be new obstacles, new critics, new fears. A winner doesn't crumble under pressure, they rise through it. They use pressure as fuel. They stay grounded in who they are and what they want, even when the noise gets loud. And trust me, it always gets loud. But if you've built the right mindset, you'll know how to navigate it. And finally, winners take full responsibility for their life. They don't wait for opportunities to be handed to them. They create them. They don't blame their past, their upbringing, their environment. They take what they have and they make something out of it. They own their journey, every part of it, like the messy parts, the painful parts, the triumphant parts, because that ownership is power. When you stop waiting for someone to save you and start realizing that you are the one, everything shifts. That's when you start moving like a winner, thinking like a winner, becoming a winner. You reach a point in your journey where success stops being about proving people wrong and starts being about proving yourself right. That shift is powerful because when you're no longer fueled by the need for external validation, you begin to operate from purpose. You stop chasing applause and start chasing alignment. And that's when real fulfillment begins. There's something liberating about walking into every room knowing you have nothing to prove and everything to give. That's what a winner's mindset ultimately creates. Freedom. The freedom to live life on your terms, to say no to what doesn't serve you, and to pour your energy into what truly matters. People often confuse hustle with chaos. They think being busy means being productive. But winners know the difference. They move with strategy, they act with clarity, they protect their time like it's sacred. Because it is. Time is your most precious resource, and how you spend it shapes who you become. I've learned to say no to anything that doesn't align with my vision. Not every opportunity is worth taking. Not every invitation is meant for you. And that's okay. You don't need to be everywhere with everyone doing everything. You just need to be intentional, focused, disciplined. That's how you create excellence, not just in your career, but in your life. There's also this illusion that winners have it all figured out, that they wake up every day confident, composed, and unshakably clear. Let me be real. There are still mornings I wake up with doubts. There are moments when I feel overwhelmed, stretched thin, unsure. The difference now is I don't let those emotions control me. I acknowledge them, but I don't bow down to them. I lead myself through them. And that's a skill you develop when you faced yourself repeatedly in the mirror and decided to keep showing up anyway. Emotional resilience is just as important, not as mental strength. You have to know how to regulate your thoughts, your energy, your mindset, especially when the world feels like it's falling apart. A lot of people want to win, but not everyone wants to work like a winner. That's the part they don't glamorize. The boring, repetitive, unsexy work, the daily rituals, the sacrifices, the behind-the-scenes discipline that no one applauds. But that's where greatness is built, in the mundane. I've had days on set where I've worked through exhaustion, shot scenes after sleepless nights, performed with an aching body and a weary heart. But I never let how I felt dictate what I delivered. Because when you train yourself to operate from commitment instead of convenience, you unlock a power most people never touch. It becomes who you are, not just what you do. You also learn with time that impact matters more than image. There was a point in my life where I tried so hard to look perfect, to be accepted. But perfection is an illusion. It's a trap that keeps you performing instead of living. What really matters is the lives you touch, the energy you bring into a room, the way people feel after they've met you. Winners care about legacy, not just likes. They care about depth, not just display. I want my work, my words, my presence to inspire people to dream bigger, fight harder, and love deeper. That's the kind of success that outlives you. You need to stay connected to your why. That's the anchor. Because when things get hard, and they will, your why is what pulls you forward. It's what reminds you that this isn't just about you, that there's a bigger reason you started. For me, it's about representing girls who were told they were too much. It's about being the face I didn't see growing up. It's about shattering ceilings and showing people that there's no mold you have to fit into, that you can be bold, brown, brilliant, and unstoppable. When your mission becomes bigger than your ego, your momentum becomes impossible to stop. There's power in reflection too. Winners take time to look back, not to dwell, but to learn. Every setback, every win, every conversation teaches you something if you're paying attention. I've kept journals, voice notes, even private letters to myself from tough seasons. Because growth is not just physical, it's emotional, intellectual, spiritual. You have to track who you're becoming, celebrate your evolution, be proud of how far you've come. So many people rush to the next goal without honoring the process, but pausing to reflect gives you fuel. It reminds you that even your pain had purpose, that nothing was wasted. One thing I've learned as I've grown is that success requires constant reinvention. You can't stay static. You can't be afraid to evolve. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow, and that's okay. Reinvention isn't failure, it's adaptation. It's survival. I've changed my career lanes, taken creative risks, walked away from comfort, all in the pursuit of growth. And every time I stepped into something unfamiliar, I found a new version of myself. That's the beauty of being human. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to outgrow the old story and write a new one. That's not weakness, that's power. And let me say this, protect your peace. Guard it like gold. Because the higher you climb, the louder the noise. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone wants access. But not everyone deserves a seat at your table. You have to learn how to say no without guilt, how to rest without shame, how to disconnect from chaos so you can reconnect with yourself. There's strength in stillness. There's power in silence. Sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can do is log out, step back, and realign. Don't let the pressure to perform rob you of your presence. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. You have to keep dreaming, no matter how much you've already achieved, because the hunger to create, to explore, to challenge yourself is what keeps you alive. The moment you stop dreaming is the moment you start decaying. I've always had this rule: stay grateful but never complacent. Be proud of your past but obsessed with your future. That mindset keeps you humble and hungry at the same time. It reminds you that you're never done, that there's always more to learn, more to give, more to build. And that journey is the real win. There's no secret formula, there's no shortcut. But if you can build a mind that's focused, disciplined, fearless, and full of belief, you're already a here. That mindset becomes your shield and your sword. It becomes your strategy, your sanctuary, and your fuel. No matter where you start or what you've been through, your mindset is the one thing no one